Hey guys, it's Gretchen and welcome back to my channel. So I recently asked a question on Instagram stories saying if you've got a Pearson horror story, please send them my way, because I want to do a video where I read people's horror stories and react to them, yada yada. You all know my Pearson horror story. It'll be up here. It's my belly button one. I really need to redo that video because that's an old video and I don't look the same anymore and I really just need to redo it. But that's my Pearson horror story, so if you haven't heard about that one yet, you should go up there and look. Today's video, I will be reading some Pearson horror stories and reacting to them. I did have quite a few of you submit some horror stories to me. I have not read any of them yet. I could just tell that they were Pearson horror stories. So yeah, I'm interested to see what you all tell me. So the majority of these did come from Instagram. I do think I had one person send an email to me, because if it was a longer one, I said send it by email because I don't think DMs would allow for a super long one. So I will say people's usernames as well as their story. I don't know if I'm gonna be lazy or if I'm actually going to take the time to put the story over here. I guess we'll see. Leanne Emo 1720. Did I say that correctly? Leanne Emo. I got my frenulum. Frenulum? Oh wow. Is today gonna be a day where I can't pronounce anything? I got my frenulum pierced with a hoop and I already had a bar through my tongue. That same day, I went to a corn gig and managed to get the bar through the hoop and ripped out the frenulum in the middle of the pit. Was gutted as it couldn't be redone because of the tearing. So in case you're unaware of what that part of the body is, because this person had their tongue pierced, you can assume that it's in the mouth. But the frenulum, I don't know too much about it, so I honestly don't know the pronunciation myself. But it's that little web underneath your tongue. So what this person was saying is they had a bar, like they had their tongue pierced, and then they had a hoop for that, and then somehow the bar got stuck in the hoop and then ripped. Even though it's a really thin piece of like flesh, that just sounds horrific. Also, shout out to going to a corn gig. I've seen corn play once. They were pretty intense. Amber Atomic says, when I was 13, my mom took me to a local tattoo shop to get my helix pierced. I got two and they pierced it with the biggest captive ball rings that I've ever seen. And surprise, surprise, I got giant bumps on them and had to take them out a month after. So the main thing here is don't use a hoop. I mean, that's my thing. Don't use a hoop as an initial piercing, because when your piercing site is trying to heal, the hoop is curved, whereas a bar or a barbell or anything like that is either just slightly curved or it's perfectly straight. So then the hole will heal straight. Yeah, just, oh God. Don't get anything pierced with a hoop. That's not good. J Nemo 127 says, I got my antitragus pierced and decided to clean it after having a few beers. My hand twitched and I managed to pull the entire opal inside the fresh piercing. Needless to say, I panicked and pushed it back out. Had to go back to my piercer to get a larger opal stud because it kept wanting to slip back inside the hole. That's what she said. So what this person is saying is that the stone, so like take my nostril stones for example, the stone was too small that it somehow got pulled through the hole, which that's pretty intense. Like that shows you that the stone was smaller than the gauge of the hole. That's intense. I'm glad you said that story though, because I'm thinking about getting my actual labret here done. I think I've settled on that one, at least for now. And I was thinking of getting a really tiny stone, but now I'm gonna reconsider getting a super tiny stone because I really don't want that going through. That sounds like it would suck. I probably would have panicked too and been like, oh God. Also, if you don't know what an antitragus is, yeah, everyone knows the tragus is this little piece right here, but the antitragus is like this piece right here. See how this one comes up? That's your antitragus, for those that didn't know. Tessa Marie 26 says, when I got my septum pierced, I was sitting upright, not laying down like people usually are, and the piercer didn't clean my nose and told me she wasn't going to pierce me yet, then surprise pierced me. She struggled to get the jewelry through, could feel her arm shaking trying to push it through. I was trying not to pass out and almost told her to stop, and the jewelry she used was too small for swelling. So healing was not fun for me whatsoever. 8 months later, it still hurts. My piercing is also crooked now. You mentioned how you were sitting upright for your septum pierced and not laying down like most people are. I actually was sitting upright for my piercing too. When I got my septum done, I was sitting upright. I wasn't laying down for that one. The only one I've ever laid down for, I think it was like my mid helix here. Like out of all of the piercings I have, the only one that I laid down for was my mid helix, and I don't know why. But so I feel you on that one. If she was struggling to get the jewelry through, you did get pierced through the sweet spot, right? Because it shouldn't have been too much of a struggle. Otherwise she might have been going through cartilage. So I'm hoping that she got the correct area, at least, even if it's a little crooked. Jewelry can kind of help that, but that really sucks. I am so sorry. As someone who absolutely loves their septum piercing, I would be absolutely devastated if mine was like royally fucked. Irina Tabaku, I hope I said that correctly, says, so when I was around 6 or 7, my mom took me to this jewelry shop to get my ears pierced. The owner did piercings when he wasn't a professional. We were waiting while a girl was getting her helix pierced with a damn gun. Then, without wearing any gloves, without sterilizing the jewelry or the piercing gun, he pierced me. Neither me nor my mom knew a lot about piercings back then, so we didn't think about it. I'm still wondering how they healed fine and didn't get any infections. So, you're lucky, I will say that, but didn't wear gloves. Ugh. First of all, that's unhygienic. Gun, I can understand. I actually had one of my helix piercings done with a gun at Claire's way back when. It's not any of the ones that I currently have because I had to end up taking that one out. That's also a horror story of mine. So I understand, but oh God, didn't sterilize the jewelry. And remember, you can't sterilize a piercing gun because it's plastic. So you can clean it, but you can never like sterilize it. I'm impressed that it healed fine for you, so count your lucky stars, because that could have ended pretty bad. X.srvn, I don't know how to pronounce usernames if they're just letters, sorry. I was on vacation in Dubai and my helix got infected because I went to that huge water park in the Palm. The upper part of my ear got super swollen and purple red. Mom said it looked like an eggplant, LOL. I remember I would get dizzy when something lightly brushed against it. Definitely not the best holiday. Also, I forgot to mention that I got it done at Claire, so eek. How long had you had it done for before you went to the water park? Because that could have been the main thing. You're not supposed to submerge it, yada, yada, yada. And especially at a water park, you don't know what kind of bacteria is in there. That's just, I don't think I'd go to a water park now. Just thinking about the bacteria in a place like that just gives me the heebie-jeebies. Hopefully your piercing's fine now. I'm going to assume that it is. You didn't mention otherwise, but I really hope it is. Ezra Thorne says, one of my horror piercing stories, if it counts, is that I got my third lobes pierced at Claire's, same. The woman that pierced my ears got the piercing gun stuck in both ears. I ended up having to finish piercing my own ears. I regret ever getting my piercings done at Claire's. You had to do your own? Wait, did she do them like at the same time? Like, did she have two guns? Was she double fisting it? I'm going to assume she like did one, it got stuck, you had to do it. Then she went to go do the other one, it got stuck, you had to do it. But that's terrifying. First of all, I don't know how people pierce themselves. Like people do the like at-home videos where they pierce themselves. I don't know how anyone does that because I personally don't think I'd be able to do it to myself, let alone someone else. Because I've been asked before why I'm not a professional piercer. I personally don't think I could handle shoving like a needle through someone. That's the primary reason. But I'm so sorry you had to do that. Lesson learned though, correct? Correct. Danielle Vong says, I got my daith piercing in November. I had it for a month when the barbell balls fall off in the week of Christmas. Me, my mom, and my boyfriend tried to screw the ball back in with no success. No shops were open during that week, so I had to take it out. Long story short, I got an infection from it and had to get it re-pierced. The piercing was much worse than my tattoo, so it was a bitch to get it re-pierced. So you had your daith piercing with a barbell. Was it a curved one, I'm assuming? So kind of like what you would have in a rook or an eyebrow piercing. That stinks. I mean, it's such a tight space in there. I could totally understand why you would struggle with it. That's why I get the septum clicker, I shove that in, and I don't mess with it ever again. Or if I do, I go to a piercer and they do it for me. Cause that would terrify me. And I'm so sorry I had to get it re-pierced. Like, I can't even imagine. Also, terrible timing with the holiday season, correct? Sickness and Serenity says, well, I kinda have one. A few years ago, as a 13-year-old, I thought it'd be cool to have another lobe piercing above my 3 already existing ones. Well, one night I took some random sewing needle and pierced through my ear. Took it out because back then I didn't know piercings instantly close up if you take the jewelry out right after they're pierced. And yeah, couldn't get a stud in, so I ended up re-piercing it for like 10 times after I finally could get it in. Never healed properly because I literally destroyed the flesh around it. So yeah, I took it out, but ever since then I have kind of a grayish spot where the piercing used to be. I assume it's necrotic flesh, which is in the inside of my ear. And yeah, it's been years since I took it out, and it's still there, reminding me of how dumb I was. I would also never pierce this area again because it's simply dead skin, and I don't think any piercing could heal in it. That's terrifying. Also, how did you stand that? Like, pierce, re-pierce, like just constantly re-piercing yourself. How did you stand that? I probably would have gagged and passed out. This comes from Talil. Am I saying your name correctly? I hope I am. They say, I went to a piercing studio in Kuwait, the only professional one because everyone in Kuwait gets piercings with guns as regulations for piercing studios are non-existent and tattoos are illegal. Seriously? I got 4 piercings at once. Rook, conch, tragus, daith. More power to you. We started with the daith. I also just noticed I haven't been doing my daith doth thing. Sorry for those that tune in just for that. We started with the daith on my right and the rook, tragus, conch in that order on my left. I know your ear was killing you. Sorry, I'm gonna stop with the commentary. It was all okay until we got to the conch. The piercer showed me the bar and I said it was too short and insisted it would be longer. She said the only longer bar they had an ugly large end and she wants me to have good jewelry while it heals and blah blah blah. We ended up choosing a longer bar with a basic stainless ball. She lined the needle up and started to push it through. It was the most painful piercing ever, and she took so long pushing it through that I could hear every layer of my ear tear and crunch. Then she goes to put the jewelry in, and she says, oh, this is too short. The bar she initially chose was even shorter. I was so mad, but tried to keep it cool as this piercing was really painful. So she goes to get another piece of jewelry and comes back to push it through. I think it was a different size because it was excruciating pain and I could feel a stretch. Anyway, she finished it and took my money and I left. A few days of me having trouble with it, I took a picture of the back and realized she pierced it so crooked that it pierced layers in my ear that shouldn't have been pierced. What I'm pissed about is that she definitely saw that she pierced it wrong and didn't care to say she messed up, but instead made me go through the pain. I took it out and texted her and she said to take it out, let it heal, come back for a new one for free. But when my ear healed and I texted the studio, they said she doesn't work there anymore. I was pissed but didn't care to do much. Now I live in the UK and I got my conch re-pierced by a real professional. And it's doing alright, but because of scar tissue, it was a bit painful to pierce. But even with scar tissue, it was much better than what happened with the Kuwait piercer. Holy shit. I am so sorry. First of all, more power to you to get 4 piercings at one time because that is intense, especially 3 of them being on the same ear and the same proximity to one another. Wow. That really sucks. I am so sorry. I'm glad you were able to get it re-pierced despite the scar tissue, but eek. That's terrifying. The final piercing horror story that I have here comes from my friend Yasmine, who is also here on YouTube. We did a collab together. She sent me her own piercing horror story, so can't wait to see what she has to say. She said, so the rules for piercing here in the UK are quite shit, and places like Claire's and another alternative shop that won't be named can have 16-year-olds jamming piercing guns in your ears and cartilage. It's awful. When I had 2 cartilage piercings, the third one I got the woman in a shitty tattoo studio within an actual shop I know pierced it wrong and then said I could go back in and pierce below it, although it would make a huge gash in your ear. I'm like, no ma'am. Anyway, I got my 4th done at this alternative shop and they pierced it wrong too, but they pierced it so high, it pierced into my 3rd cartilage piercing and almost ripped the skin. Piercer took it out and did it again. I almost died. That same shop I got my cartilage from, and the girl did it so far forward in my ear, it ripped itself out. Fucking grim. Now I have a huge keloid scar from all the trauma. Ugh, girl. And she sent me pictures so I could see it. And she's talked about this on her channel before. I'll insert her video so you can go check hers out too, because I remember her talking about this. She said my scaffold has tiny scars and you can see how in front of my ear it is at the top. It should have been a bit lower and further back on my ear because it literally ripped itself out. That's insane. That's nuts. I am so sorry. People, when they pierce in one spot and they're like, oh, that's wrong, let me go back in. Why? Why would, oh God, that's so much wrong with that. So that is it for these piercing horror stories. Thank you to those that submitted their horror stories. If enough people enjoyed this, maybe I'll do like a part 2, open it up to those on YouTube. If you've got a piercing horror story, that I would probably open up on like the community tab or something like that. But if you missed your opportunity to submit a horror story, there may be another one in the future. But that is it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please give it a big ol' thumbs up. Go on down there and hit that subscribe button wherever it may be, because I don't know. Even though I do, this is just my shtick now. Also hit that notification bell in case you want to know when I upload, and in case YouTube wants to let you know when I upload, because I would really appreciate it. And until next time, bye guys. Like, sub, bell, because notification wouldn't fit.